may have been keeping you happy. One I'm going to share right next year. It's just that. Well, it's, and then I'm on the International Board and have on HPN. I'm now on their board, but I'm also on the International Committee.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Sarah Stevens Tuesday Forum. I'm Laura McClay, one of the facilitators, along with Jackie Walton Edwards, Mary Johnson, Jackie Edwards.
Jackie Edwards Walton.
Jackie Edwards Walton. And Sarita Sherrill is usually with us, and Mary Johnson, and Natalie McEra, and Steve Johnston, who is responsible for all the emails that you receive, and he will be, you need to know that this is live stream as well as Facebook Live, and we want to welcome you. We're going to start off with the word of prayer with Jackie.
Father, good morning. We're so happy to be here in your presence and in the presence of persons who want to know more around housing during this June of Home Ownership Month. We ask that you just bless the proceedings of today. We ask that you keep us safe throughout the day, and bless this leadership of housing providers. We thank you for your so many blessings. In the name of the soon coming King, amen.
Thank you, Jackie. Julie, I know we have some of our speakers that may be here for the first time, and we have one other person that's here for the first time, right? Will you stand and introduce yourself?
My name is Heather Franklin. I am the Executive Vice President of Finance at Enlivian, here to support our esteemed colleague from the Court, Shannon Burns.
Thank you. And just as information, for Tuesday Forum, we usually start at 8:30, and we facilitate, we allow you to present. And once you present, we get questions from the body of people that are here. And we do, as I mentioned earlier, this is live stream as well as Facebook Live. And we receive texts from some of our audience that will ask questions from time to time, but the questions will come from those individuals here. And we ask them to give us the question because we like to talk a little bit. So instead of commentary, we like for them to just give us 30 seconds of a question. And we have a timekeeper. Natalie is our timekeeper. And, and we'd like to ask you if you can answer it, minute or two, okay? People come in respectfully and they leave respectfully. So you'll see people coming in. And of course, you know that we try to have some coffee available for all of our members that attend on a regular basis and for our guest speakers. But we're so happy to have you here with us this morning. So I will let you introduce yourselves. And Mr. Mitchum from Enlivian was invited and was supposed to come, but Shannon is here representing Enlivian this morning. So I'll start with you.
Okay. You want me to take this one?
Yeah, just take that one. And make sure that when you speak, we've been having problems with these microphones.
How close?
Yes.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Hi everybody, I'm Julie Porter. I'm president of Dream Key Partners. You may have known Dream Key Partners under its former name, Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. We're a nonprofit organization. We were formed 35 years ago, or nearly 35 years ago, by a group of civic leaders. And I think, Jackie, you just said that you were one of those people who was probably holed up in a small room talking about the need for another nonprofit who focused in on some of the neighborhoods in Charlotte. Our mission is transforming lives, communities, and what is possible through affordable housing. We do that in a variety of ways. We are a multifamily real estate developer, and we also develop single-family homes for homeownership Most of the single-family homes that we develop are in the northwest part of Charlotte, Druid Hills neighborhood, but also other corridors, and actually right now we're starting to build 17 townhomes in the Greer Heights neighborhood. So we have a variety of products, townhomes, single-family, and then multifamily rental that are all affordable. When I say affordable, I mean for people who are at 80% AMI and under for home ownership. Our target for our multifamily rental is 60% AMI and under. In addition to what we do on the real estate development side, we have programs aimed at homebuyer education, housing counseling, foreclosure counseling, just financial literacy. During the pandemic, you may have known us for providing the rental assistance program for all of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County through the county and the city contracts. So we did all of the emergency rental assistance for the area. I think I'll stop there. I don't want to keep going.
All right, my turn. Good morning, I'm Laura Belcher. I'm the president and CEO of Habitat for the Charlotte region. I have been with the organization, it'll be 9 years next month, which has been great. Habitat is celebrating our 40th anniversary in Charlotte this year, so it's a year of celebration, lots going on. We were founded in Charlotte by a great demonstration of kind of the collaborative nature of Charlotte. It was 7 area churches of multiple denominations came together to form Habitat along with several civic leaders. And so we have been building homes since 1983. Most people know us as a home builder, so we build homes for home ownership, both single family and townhomes. In addition to the homes that we build, and lots of people know we build with volunteers too, so it's a volunteer engagement for the community to be part of what we're doing. But in addition to the new homes that we build, we also do critical home repair, which is a major part of our mission now. So we are working with owner-occupied homes, mostly seniors. The average age is 69, families that have an area median income or 40% or below, and have deferred maintenance and can't maintain the home to the standard that we would all want. And so we will go into the home in partnership often with the city and the county, some public funding, and return that home to a safe and decent place to live. And so we'll build probably 70 homes this year. We'll repair 125 homes. In addition to that, we do financial literacy, like DreamKey, and our focus on the financial literacy is the Money Matters program. And it's a 3-week cohort program. Our goal is that graduates from that program know what it takes to be home buyer ready. Are they home buyer ready today? 3 months, 3 years. They have a vision and a path forward. We want to instill in people the opportunity to know what it would take to be home buyer ready. So, new homes, repairing homes, and financial literacy, that's the core of the work that we're doing in order to support the community and having fun doing it, celebrating all year long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Good morning again. My name is Shannon Burns. I am the Homeownership Program Manager for Enlivian's Destination Homeownership Program, where we serve all of our Enlivian residents who are interested in pursuing homeownership or who simply want to increase their financial well-being. And we do that by way of one-on-one homeownership counseling, one-on-one financial coaching. We offer homebuyer education classes as well as financial fitness workshops, where our homeownership counselors will guide and equip our residents with the tools, the skills, and the resources that they need to make, well-informed decisions in order to be able to secure and maintain, right, safe, decent, and affordable housing, whether they make that decision to continue through with the purchase or should they decide that they would like to continue to rent. You may be familiar with the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So one of the beautiful things about this program is that our residents who are recipients of this have the opportunity, the unique opportunity, to be able to convert their rental subsidy to a mortgage subsidy. So these individuals who are low income, who may not otherwise be able to afford to purchase a home are able to convert their mortgage to be able to support that. We can't do this work without partnerships, creating collaborative efforts with Habitat for Humanity, other housing counseling agencies like Dream Key. They are the ones who are building the homes, the affordable homes for our residents to be able to have the opportunity to purchase. And so we look to our lenders as well. We partner with several major lenders who are interested and willing and committed to utilizing the Housing Choice Voucher as income so that our residents are able to pre-qualify for a mortgage and potentially compete in this market. We also partner with down payment assistance programs. We need those funds available for some of our residents to be able to purchase. And if I could, I don't know how much time I have, but I'd like to share a quick story so that we can just kind of bring together how we cannot do this work alone and how it is vital that we utilize all of the individuals in our community who are forwarding the same mission. So we had a couple, both disabled. Their income is about $600 a month. So total household income of about $1,200. Their Housing Choice Voucher subsidy was about $900. One of our partnering lenders who agreed to utilize their voucher as income was able to utilize that and qualify them for a mortgage, and now their income is double, and they were able to pre-qualify, not for a lot, but for about $200,000. Well, by way of the city and Habitat's partnership, they were able to rehab a home, a condo specifically, offer it at an affordable price of $155,000, so that couple was able to not only purchase that home, but receive a $900 payment towards that mortgage for 30 years because they are disabled. So that's just an inside scoop of the work that we do and how exciting it is. Again, we only serve in living residents currently, but we are doing our best to continue collaborating with other organizations in the city to continue to make homeownership a dream come true.
I don't see any hands. Jackie?
Yes, can you tell us a little bit about your, can you tell us a little bit about your background as to what, a little bit about yourself as to what brought you to where you are in the housing field? I mean, you can start as early as you like.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Somebody asked me how I got here the other day, as a matter of fact, and in a very flippant way, I said I got here because I was bored. And when I was young, I went into banking, and I ran a mortgage shop, and then I started doing lending for construction loans for single-family homes, and I just thought it was the most boring thing I'd ever done in my life. And then one time I got the opportunity to do what is known as a CRA loan in banking, basically a Community Reinvestment Act. And it was for some single family homes in the urban core with a group called Eastmeyer Community Association. And it was the hardest loan I have ever made. I had to have like 20 relationships with city government to do it. And about halfway through, we found out there were no sewers associated with the house, and so then we had all kinds of issues there, and it was an absolute blast. And so I became very interested in working in urban neighborhoods, especially with community groups, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go to work for Greater Kansas City LISC at the time, and I was their lender. And every project was like that. It was grocery stores, it was single-family homes, it was multifamily home lending. And eventually I became executive director there, and I was there from 2001 to 2013, and really transforming neighborhoods. It was an absolute blast. But after a while, I said, well, this is just banking. And it was 2012, 2013. I said, I'm kind of bored. I think I'm going to go on and find something else to do. And I got a call from a headhunter that said, we have this job in Charlotte, at Charlotte-Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. Pat Garrett, if you knew Pat, she had been there 25 years, and she was retiring. And of course, she was the founding director. So this was going to be a really difficult job. But at the same time, it was the first time I've been given the opportunity to actually do the work. As a banker, you're always financing the work, you're watching it happen. And so given that opportunity to actually jump in, build houses, build multifamily, watch people buy their first home, provide the down payment assistance through the city, all the different things we were able to do, I don't think I'll ever be bored again, which is fantastic because, you know, I'm getting to an age where being bored again might mean finding a new position, and I'm not going to do that. I love it here, I love Charlotte, and I love Dream Key Partners.
Thanks, Julie. So I started in corporate also. I have an accounting and finance background. I'm a CPA by training and spent 9 years in public accounting and then 9 years in financial services. It's not hard to work in financial services in Charlotte because there's so many of them. But enjoyed all of that background and experience that it gave me. And then I had an opportunity to transition into nonprofit, and I went to work for the Arts and Science Council as their CFO and then their COO. All of that was good training to be the CEO of Habitat, right? So Habitat is a construction company. We're also a mortgage company because we lend to our home buyers. We're a retail company. We have 6 stores, and so we run a $9 million retail organization. We're also a social services because of the financial literacy and the work that we do with families. And then we're a nonprofit and we raise money and get public grants. So we're kind of 5 organizations under one roof. And so having the background in finance and public accounting and nonprofit was all a good path. One of the things that happened when I got contacted about the position at Habitat, after being in the arts, and many people thought that I would seek a leadership role within an arts organization. But what I realized was I was spending my discretionary time, my free time, building houses. I was taking weeks off of work to build with Habitat and to go on mission trips with my church. And so when the headhunter called and said, would you want to consider Habitat? I said, well, this is a really amazing intersection of my personal passions and my profession. And it was too good to pass up. So it's been the fastest 9 years of my life. It's all good.
Where did it begin? Let's see. When I graduated from college, I knew that I wanted to make documentary film and travel the world. But to keep the long story short, I ended up leaving the country for about 1.5 years, and I came back and I landed a job by accident teaching high school Spanish and coaching track and field. Woo-hoo. I did that for a couple of years, and I decided to move from the city of High Point to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I landed a job at Community Link as a homeownership educator and counselor. And this is where I fell in love with working the front lines in this industry. I worked there for a short while, ended up in training and development for a couple of corporate organizations, only to come back home to homeownership by way of what is now Dream Key Partners. I was the director of homeownership education there for about 11 years. Decided I needed to take a little break because this work is hard work, and as compassionate as we can be, sometimes that passion can turn into burnout. So I decided to take a little break, and I said, God, if I need to go back into this industry, I need you to drop something in my lap. And lo and behold, 9 months into my little hiatus, I got a notification that there was something available within Livian. And so here I am. I've been here with Livian for about 2 years in August. It's been a wonderful journey. Totally different from, the previous affordable housing organizations that I worked for before, because we are the public housing authority. But I'm super excited about expanding the destination homeownership program and seeing where we take it in the future.
Okay.
Thank you, Lee.
Kristen?
Are your programs, does any of your programs expand outside of Mecklenburg County?
Yeah, so good question on geographic reach. Habitat Charlotte region covers most of Mecklenburg County. There's another Habitat that covers Matthews and Mint Hill, but we cover the rest of Matthews, and we cover all of Iredell County. So we kind of have a long and skinny service area. I call us the I-77 affiliate. We run from Statesville to Pineville. But there are Habitat's affiliates in each county around Mecklenburg County, right? And we loosely have a relationship called the Metrolina where we get together once a quarter and share best practices. And so, but there's a Gaston County Habitat, and a Lincoln County Habitat, and a Union County, and a York County. So there's a Habitat in every county surrounding Mecklenburg.
DreamKey predominantly works in Mecklenburg County. We administer the City of Charlotte's down payment assistance program called House Charlotte that helps first-time home buyers. That's only available in the City of Charlotte proper, but we partner with Mecklenburg County on other programs, including like the rental assistance program. At times, we work discreetly with some of the small towns in Mecklenburg County like Matthews or Davidson, but predominantly Mecklenburg County.
And the Destination Homeownership Program is a niche program, so we currently serve only our residents. But those who are willing to purchase, they can purchase anywhere, but those who are Housing Choice Voucher recipients, they are able to purchase in Mecklenburg County. However, if they would like to move anywhere else in the United States, they are able to port their voucher to that city if there is a housing authority that has an active HCV homeownership program.
Good morning, and thank you for coming, especially you that came in on crutches. I have a question for each of you in the order that you presented. I don't know a lot about what you do, so I have basic questions. The first lady that spoke, and I'm sorry, I don't know your names, I'd have to look them up. But you mentioned affordable housing, and that's always a question to me is, what is affordable housing? Now, you mentioned a percentage of something that was 3 alphabet letters, but I don't know what that meant. So if you could explain to me and give an example of that. And then the next lady that came in, how does Habitat for Humanity work? I love them. I love this store. I love everybody that works in those stores. I've been to many of them. But I don't know, how do you select who's going to build a house for? And do they now own that house? Are they paying for the house? I don't know how it works when you actually do the houses.
Okay.
And
Shannon is next first.
I don't know what, is it Olivian?
In Libyan?
I have no idea what that is.
Housing.
Is she going to answer?
Wednesday, we know you
Are
know
they
the
trying-
answers.
Are they trying to point out that everybody knows the answers but me? Is that what my
No.
fellow colleagues are doing?
Absolutely not.
But if you could explain what that is, thank you.
So affordable housing is different for everybody because everybody's income is different. Basically what we say is housing is affordable if you're only paying paying no more than 30% of your income for housing. So for a very wealthy person who makes $200,000, what is affordable for them is different than somebody who is making $30,000. We base almost all of our housing, both the rental side and the homeownership side, on what is known as Area Median Income, AMI. Right now, I believe area median income for a family of 4 in the Charlotte region just changed to $100,000. Yes, it went up fairly dramatically. It went from $92,400 to $100,000. That's for a family of 4. So when we're looking at home ownership, for the most part, we're looking, or at least for our down payment assistance program that we administer on behalf of the city, you're mostly looking at people who are at 80% of area median income. For a family of 4, clearly that would be $80,000. But it goes down if you're a family of 3, it's a different amount. Family of 2, you should go to our website, dreamkey.org, and it'll actually give you the AMI chart right on that website. If you're talking about rental, some of our multifamily, it mostly goes in increments. Some of our units of housing are serving people who are at 30% of area median income for a family of 4, 30,000 and below, 50% of area median income, 50,000 and below, and 60% of area median income. So that's kind of how the housing works. We have to qualify people for their income, based on their income, for the affordable housing, so that we make sure that they qualify. And then the rents also change based on what the AMI level is for that particular unit.
So let me tell you a little bit about families that we work with. So for our home buying program, it's families at that area median income of 80% or below. In order to qualify for our program, we really say there's three primary criteria, right? So the first is a demonstrated need for housing. Unfortunately, in Charlotte, that's a pretty easy one to demonstrate. You have to demonstrate either that you're living cost burdened, which means that you're paying more than that 30% threshold on your housing, which most low-income renters are spending more than 30% on their housing. So the first is that you've got a need, so substandard, cost burdened, or overcrowded housing. So if you have a demonstrated need for housing, that's the first criteria to apply with us. The second is because we are building the homes and selling them for an affordable mortgage. The second criteria is an ability to repay the mortgage. There's sometimes a misperception that Habitat gives away houses. We don't. We work with low-wage earners in the community that can pay for a mortgage. They just can't pay for a market mortgage. So we right-size the mortgage based on what the family can afford. The same way that Julie was talking about, kind of right-sizing the rents based on the income of the household, we right-size the mortgage based on the income of the household. So the first criteria, you have to have a need for housing. The second is you have to have the ability to repay the mortgage. And the third is a demonstrated willingness to partner with Habitat, which means that you're going to participate in the financial literacy classes, you're going to work on investing time and energy in the community. We have our homeowners will spend time going to neighborhood association meetings where their home is going to be built so they can get to know their neighbors. They go to financial literacy, they go to home maintenance classes. We're trying to prepare people to be a good, thriving homeowner. Those are the three criteria to be a home buyer.
So the young lady asked who was in Libyan. If you're familiar with the Charlotte Housing Authority, then Libyan is our new name. And we offer an array of supportive services to our residents who live in over 45 properties that we own and manage. And coming back to the Destination Homeownership Program, that's just one avenue where we're able to assist our residents in becoming more self-sufficient by way of homeownership.
Thank you for calling me young.
You're welcome.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. I pretty much dove into the affordable housing situation because I was helping a young lady from out of the Salvation Army to try to find a place to rent. And you talk about a bear. It is a bear. And I had to drive all over Charlotte. She didn't have money to help me with gas. And everywhere we went, basically where we were sent to different places, they said, oh, we don't do that anymore. Well, we had known that on the upper hand, that would have avoided that situation. I guess we went to maybe 10 different apartments to try to get you all, maybe not you all specifically, but the types of organizations that would help individuals get affordable housing. So what I'd like to know is, do you all have your own set of housing, or do you have relationships with the different apartments in Charlotte that will cut out a lot of the red tape that we could go straight to this particular housing project that you have established a relationship with to help individuals?
Yeah, I think we're the only multi-family, well, what am I saying? You own a lot of multifamily. But Dream Key owns what is probably known as traditional affordable housing rental. And we have about 3,000 units in the Charlotte region. I do know it is a maze of trying to get people into affordable housing. It is really difficult, mostly because the waiting lists are years long as opposed to weeks long. So you can go to an apartment community, put in your application or put yourself on the interest list, but there might be 50 people ahead of you. And it is it just speaks to the shortage of affordable housing that we have in Charlotte. It isn't getting any better. We have a third-party property manager who actually manages all the properties. Dreamkey does not manage them once we own them. They are basically telling us right now that every day that they open their doors, that there are 10 to 15 people who are trying to put in an application. And when you figure every single person stays 2 to 3 years on average, the units just don't come available very often. And it is simply a matter of supply and demand. There's way too much demand. We have way too much of a shortage of supply here in Charlotte, and it is very difficult right now. I don't know any other way to say it. You know, I've done the same thing you have done, you know, tried to find affordable housing for people, especially when we were doing the rental assistance program, and navigating that. And it is incredibly difficult. There is one other organization, the Charlotte Housing Collaborative, socialserve.com, formerly SocialServe, that will work one-on-one, you know, really trying to find a landlord and match with the customer. That is one way to go. They've had a good track record of finding people housing. It may not necessarily be traditional affordable housing. They may just be working with an individual landlord. But that's kind of, I wish I had an easy answer for that one.
No, we worked with that.
There just isn't.
Yes. There is no easy answer, but
No.
yes, I'm very familiar with social service.
Yeah.
That's the one where we were able to get a hit with.
There you go.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, just one more thing.
One more thing.
Ditto to what Ms. Porter just mentioned, but also for Enlivian residents, we do have all of our properties available on our website. So you go to enlivian.com and you can click on any properties to see if there are any availabilities.
Good morning. This question is for the young lady from Enlivian. There used to be, and I don't know, and I'm asking, is it still there, where if you lived in public housing, then if you had someone else who wasn't authorized to live there, then you would lose that, your home. And, you know, usually, a lot of times, it's not people who live inside of the areas that cause issues, it's people who come from outside. And then the second question with that is, if children are not going to school, there used to be a rule that you might lose your housing. Are those things still true?
So the Housing Choice Voucher Program has a list of guidelines that all recipients must adhere to. I am 100% sure that anyone that's living in the unit must be on the lease, and so they must disclose that information at the time they sign their Housing Choice Voucher. As it relates to the young children, I am not sure 100% if that is listed in the guidelines, but I will be happy to read through those and find out and get back with you on that. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I keep hearing about apartments or apartments on the list where the owners are not accepting the vouchers. Now, if they are on the list, how can they refuse to accept the voucher? Is that legal? Or, you know, I keep hearing that people say that they have the money to pay, but the people that they send them to apartments or houses to rent don't accept the vouchers. And my next question, you all can answer that, but I have a question. What does Enlivian mean, and why did you change the name to Enlivian? That's the first time I've heard of that word, and I didn't know if it had some significance or not.
Okay, so for the first question, remind me of the first question. I always started thinking about Enlivian, and I was like, what does Enlivian? Landlords not exempt, vouchers. Of course, if you are in affordable housing that is owned by Dream Key, of course, we take vouchers for any of our properties. Part of that, the city of Charlotte actually passed a rule, a regulation that said if you take Housing Trust Fund or any other city subsidy for building apartment communities or purchasing apartment communities, you have to accept housing vouchers. However, private landlords that have no ties to the city of Charlotte do not have to take vouchers, and some, refuse to do so. There are rules for source of income discrimination that have been proposed. Unfortunately, it would take state level regulation and laws changes, and nobody feels that that's going to happen. In fact, just in response to Charlotte's rule that if you take their subsidy, you have to take housing vouchers, the legislature passed a law that said you can't do that. So it's actually in jeopardy right now. I think that they maybe backed off of it a little bit, but we have a state legislature that is not necessarily friendly toward anything that is related to housing or regulating landlords at this point.
And I was waiting for someone to ask that question about the name change this morning. So what I would like to do is share with you one statement that we have on our website, as well as what we share with individuals when they ask us that. So just so you know, in Libyan, the Charlotte Housing Authority didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, we're going to change our name. This was a long thought out process where residents were a part of that rebranding process as well. In Libyan, spelled I-N-L-I-V-I-A-N, comes from the word enliven, meaning to restore or give life to. And so in Libyan's vision is to empower families and individuals to live more stable lives by delivering price point housing for those priced out of the market, including teachers, nurses, custodians, veterans, seniors, and the disabled. So we continue to serve in the same capacity that we did before, but we have a more lively name with a nicer ring to it.
Again, I'll say thank you for being here. I am so frustrated with planning and development in Charlotte. If someone receives state, local, federal funds, why should not the affordable component of that development stay affordable in perpetuity, always? Let's dream big. What are other solutions to affordable housing that we have not mentioned? What can we help you work with? And how can we raise public voices to make sure that Charlotte can be affordable for everyone?
Wow.
Thanks, Nancy. Affordable housing, I say this a lot, there's no one silver bullet that's going to address this, right? So we need to look across the entire housing continuum, and we need to have multiple things going at the same time. The mismatch in supply and demand that Julie was talking about is really, has been an ongoing problem and will continue to be a problem in Charlotte because we have such a desirable place to live, and the population forecasts are amazing for the next 20 years, and we have, had population outstrip the supply that we built over the last 10, and so we're already in a hole. And so every time we have more residents move, we just get further behind. So we've got to find ways to get more units. And actually, I think we need housing that is affordable to people of all income levels, right? So what's happening right now is we don't have enough housing at all levels. We certainly don't have enough affordable housing. But what happens when you don't have enough for moderate and higher income is that they buy down, right? So they have the ability that they're looking for $1 million home and can't find it. They buy a $500,000 home and put an addition on it, or $500,000 is their budget. They buy a $300,000 home. So what's happening is we've got a lot of folks that are buying down. So we need housing at all price points to take some pressure off of what's going on. So we need to add units. When we're talking about adding affordable units, we need different ways to fund that. The traditional way in Charlotte we've been doing that is through the Housing Trust Fund. which currently sits at $50 million every 2 years, which is $25 million. When you think about the cost of housing and the size of this community, that is not sufficient. And you think about how costs have increased and the cost of housing has increased, and we're staying at a $50 million housing trust fund bond, that it has less and less and less buying power than it did before. So we're a growing population with less buying power. So, locally, I believe we all and the local voices need to be advocating for an increase in the housing trust fund, right? We need to be growing that. There's a thought right now that the next step should make it $100 million instead of $50 million, right? So we need to double it because the buying power of it has probably been cut in half in the last couple of years. So we need to bring that up and demonstrate a commitment to building more units. That is a way to fuel that. That also helps us preserve units. NOAA properties are naturally occurring affordable housing, right? So it wasn't built, oftentimes we're building affordable housing and it's designated as affordable from the time it's built. NOAAs are properties that maybe weren't built to be affordable housing, but have aged, so they become naturally occurring affordable housing, and we can repurpose them into affordable housing. And the Housing Trust Fund allows us some of that ability to both build new and acquire NOAAs.
I'm going to talk just a little bit about permanent affordability, both in home ownership and multifamily. The one thing this is a belief system for Dream Key Partners, and it's one our board and our staff take pretty seriously, is that when we are working with a homeowner or a potential homeowner to buy a home, that as they pay their mortgage, which is just a market mortgage with maybe some down payment assistance, that there needs to be a time when they earn the equity in that home. And so we put some restrictions on our down payment assistance program for a certain level of affordability. That has ranged over time from 10 to 15 to 20 years. We believe that families who stay in the home for that long, 15 years, 20 years, we have some people right now who have reached their 30 year and paid off their first mortgage, they should be able to realize the equity in their home. I look at it as, Black home ownership in Charlotte is sitting at about 41, 42%. There was a period of time when African American families could not purchase homes. The way I look at it is that they have earned that equity because 80% of the people that we help with down payment assistance are African American. I believe that they should be able to have that gain in financial wealth. On the multifamily side, what we promise at the beginning is 30 years of affordability. That's what Housing Trust Fund from the City of Charlotte requires. That's what NCHFA from the state of North Carolina requires. We have at times gone up to 60 years. We've done 40 years. And for Dream Key, being a nonprofit organization, we have no problem saying it'll be 100 years. Because we intend to keep our properties forever, keep them in good condition, keep the affordability levels where they are. We have properties that have no affordability restrictions any longer, and we have kept them affordable at the exact same rate because that is our mission as an organization. However, there are a lot of for-profits that own and develop multifamily affordable housing because it's an industry. And when they reach the 30 years, there's absolutely no protection that those won't be sold into market. When you're looking at NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing, where it's acquisition, the developer who does the primary of that, who's a good friend, promises 20 years of affordability, at which point they could be sold potentially into the market. That's something I think that is open for discussion and debate. I don't advocate for permanent affordability on multifamily because you just never know when a property is strategic enough that it needs to fall out of affordability. And I'll just give you an example. A friend of mine, an organization that I know on the West Coast, they recently sold one of their properties for $100 million. They are using that $100 million to build like 10 additional apartment communities. It just happened to be located in an area that it was a very popular property. So I do think that there needs to be some strategic thought, there needs to be some discernment of when it's okay to sell an affordable housing community that has been, in existence for a period of time. So I do think that you need to be careful with how long those restrictions go. Doesn't mean that you can't re-up. The Housing Trust Fund loan is still on there. You can still negotiate. I just am not a big fan of permanent affordability, but that's just me.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Could you just, back up for a second and talk about actually the Housing Trust Fund and what it is and how it works and why we keep having this on our ballot when we vote?
You use it more than I do.
Yeah, sure.
Because it doesn't go to a homeownership.
Right, we use Housing Trust Fund for both homeownership and multifamily, predominantly multifamily. So I guess maybe it was in 2016, maybe it got changed from 25 million to 50 million. Maybe that was 2018, I'm not sure. But anyway, what it's used for is the subsidy. It was always used for the gap. Basically, when you're building multifamily, you get traditional mortgage, you get tax credits from the state, and then Housing Trust Fund was always there to bridge the gap between what it costs to build and what the project can feasibly handle in terms of debt, and what it costs to build. Right now, what's happening with the multifamily is the costs have increased so dramatically that Housing Trust Fund, which usually amounts to somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 per unit, isn't enough to fill those gaps. I know it sounds crazy, but if I am building right now a $20 million project or a $30 million project, my gaps are bigger than Housing Trust Fund can actually plug the gap. We have seen 50 to 60% cost increases over the last 5 years. And since the pandemic, it's been really bad. I have projects that stalled for a long period of time because there are $3, $4, $5 million gaps in them that we have never seen before. But Housing Trust Fund basically is a loan that comes into the project. It earns an interest rate to the city of Charlotte of 1 or 2%. They set that loan's maturity for when the affordability restrictions retire. And then if it did go to market, they would get paid back. Or it just continues as kind of soft money if you re-up in terms of the affordability. So that's what it's always been there. They have, over the last few years, also given some Housing Trust Fund for single-family construction because they know that there's very few homes that are priced in an affordable range, $300,000, $315,000 for new, in the affordable range for House Charlotte. So they have been incenting, about $30,000 per house actually, so that we can build houses that are affordable for people who are at 80% area median income, and they have used some Housing Trust Fund for that.
Only thing I would add is Housing Trust Fund is a very traditional tool. Lots of communities have them, lots of cities, lots of states having Housing Trust Fund. It's a way for the city to participate and use public dollars to support the creation of affordable housing. So it's a very traditional tool.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
First question is a very easy question. What is the timeline for payment for landlords? You mentioned the vouchers. Is that a monthly process, just like, pay my rent, then the check comes in from the associations or from the various agencies? And the second question is, can you speak specifically around what percentages you all service in the 30 to 50% AMI? Those are the least of these in Charlotte. What percentage you service those?
As far as the rental payments, they are sent on behalf of the resident directly to the landlord. And the expectation is that they receive it before it's late, by the 5th of the month. And the second question was, what percentage?
The 30 to 50% AMI client base. Can you speak a little bit more towards the gap? How many folks are you servicing in that range?
So in Libyan serves about 10,000 residents, and most of our residents are low to mod income. And so a large percentage, over 75% of the people that we serve are in that income range.
As when I look at income ranges on home ownership, it has historically gone from 30% to 80%. Our average is 49%, so I don't know exactly how many are in that 30 to 50, but the average is 49, so a good portion in the lower range. And then for our home repair program, that has been 60% and below, and the average income there is closer to 30% for our repairs.
And just a reminder, that's 30% of area median income, or about $30,000 for a family of 4. And I would say that about 40% of our portfolio is 50% AMI and under. Now, we own quite a bit of senior properties, and those are all geared towards 60% area median income, but there's a large percentage of them that are at 50 and 30% on those older properties. I will say it's getting more difficult to deliver the 30% area median income units and the 50%, because the rent right now does not cover the monthly expenses. And so if you're building a 30% of area median income unit in a multifamily property, you pretty much have to have 100% subsidy in order to do that. That's one of the biggest issues, and that's why when you see things that are coming through on Housing Trust Fund right now, you'll see all of a sudden things creeping 30, 60, 80% of area median income, even market. And a lot of that is the developers just trying to make the deal work, trying to figure out a way. It drives us crazy, because we want to serve all 60% of area median income and under in our apartment communities, and we can't, because the numbers simply don't work. Even if I'm getting $30,000 to $50,000 in Housing Trust Fund, I still have gaps, so that all of a sudden I'm having to put market rate units in my apartments, and I dislike doing that, but I have to make the deal work.
I'm highlighting a little bit what you said, Julie, about the $80,000. That's 2 adults who would need to be making $19 an hour. And a lot of that is not happening in the community when you talk about those gaps that we need. And if we didn't have the trust fund and the House Charlotte and the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, the tax credits, those things, if we didn't have them, it's like you said, it just doesn't work. But my question is, in 30 seconds, is can you tell us a little bit about the Mayfield project on Sugar Creek?
Sure. The Mayfield project, that's a really great project. It's in partnership with Mayfield Memorial Baptist Church. It's called Sugary Place. It's going to open, well, actually, we fully leased that building within 48 hours, almost like 72 hours. So it's only 51 units, but it's really beautiful. If you've been inside it and taken a tour, it's really a beautiful property. The great thing about that is the church owned the land, and what they decided to do was lease it long-term to Dream Key Partners, so they still own the land. Eventually they will own the apartment community, but not for like 99 years. But at the same time, it's been a just tremendous partnership with the church. And we are seeing churches, just as an aside, churches come to us more and more often who have land and want to build affordable housing on it. It's something that we're almost to the point where we're going to need a dedicated staff member to just work on church partnerships, because all of the churches, the one asset they have is land. And so we've also seen Covenant Presbyterian Church make an investment in one of our affordable housing. We're working with Caldwell Presbyterian Church to do 20 units of supportive housing in one of their buildings, and then we're working with Myers Park Presbyterian to do some housing in Greer Heights. So I mean, they've really come through in a big way. But the Sugary one, I can't wait for grand opening, and it's going to be very soon.
Good morning. I want to applaud each of you because each of you do something very different, and it's something that is so needed. A statement, I know Mary asked the question about some people accept vouchers and some don't, and you explained that. If you're private, you don't necessarily accept them. That's because they vet those individuals. And unfortunately, everybody doesn't believe after vetting in second and third chances to give people an opportunity if they made a mistake. And in Livian, I recall when they got with the residents and they asked them, and that was a perception change. I mean, the housing authority was like a negative connotation, and they gave the residents an opportunity to change that. And I think that was a reason they came up with that name. What, and it's not a question, but, and I'm affiliated with another organization, and it is NOAA. I'm on their advisory board, and they do a good job of renovating apartments. And then, I mean, they go in and gut them, and then they do it for a very low price. And thank you, Arthur, because the city and the county actually give funds for that. And I think more of that is needed. And my other comment is, I forgot. My other comment is that we keep talking about affordable housing. It's not housing. It's apartments. And we need to, if anything, advocate for affordable housing. We keep talking about individuals can, 20 years, in 20 years you should be able to own a home. So how do you convert it from apartments to housing? And that's something we should be looking at and advocating for. That's my question. It's not a question.
Okay.
But you are able to respond if you'd like.
I just wanted to remind you that the Destination Homeownership Program and the work that Livian does, we're focused on homeownership. And as I said in the beginning, we can't do this work alone, and we partner and force collaborations with other individuals and organizations that are striving to be able to build affordable housing in the city. And I think that Jackie mentioned the down payment assistance program by way of City of Charlotte, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. These are the ways that we're able to usher our residents into home ownership. So we are trying to assist them with becoming self-sufficient. And though we serve, like I said before, approximately 10,000 individuals, we are marketing from in-house to all of these residents to be able to get them to home ownership.
This is for Livian. Could you give me estimated?
That's okay, go ahead.
Could you give me an estimated wait time for each of your services, and what is the most effective way to actually get help?
Okay, so that's a loaded question. Remember, my focus is the Destination Homeownership Program. So we don't have a wait list for that particular opportunity. Anyone that's interested in our program, they are required to attend a mandatory information session where we are 100% open, honest, and transparent about the state of the market, what they can potentially qualify for, and then we actually get them in the program going through the education and the counseling piece. As far as the wait list, Julie mentioned it earlier, it's a long wait list for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, if that's what you're referring to. You can also go to our website, enlivian.com, where you can have access to all of the other services that we offer. We offer several supportive services that include our youth and child and family services program. We have an opportunity housing program, which gives individuals an opportunity to potentially be able to rent in higher cost areas in the city, and we also have a senior disabled program. So I can't give you the wait time to actually become a part of those programs and receive those services, but I can tell you that the Housing Choice Voucher Program is probably the #1 program that individuals reach out about, and that wait list is pretty long right now.
Hey, how you doing? Could you guys talk about how your organizations are working with like the community and how you guys are trying to spread your programs and really meet the communities and work on your outreach programs? Also, I'm not sure if like you guys specialize in this, but could you also talk about the sustainability in the housing and how you guys are working to improve on that?
Sure. So from neighborhood engagement, we've got a process and goals. We have a neighborhood engagement coordinator on our team. So when we're going to build houses in a particular neighborhood, we work with that neighborhood in advance of the building even starting, right? So we want to make sure that we know the neighborhood knows us, they know who their new neighbors are going to be, and so we'll work in partnership with the community on that. We have positions on our board that are community representatives and folks with lived experience through our programs, and so they have a voice on our board, and that's part of how we're working with the community. Your second question was around sustainability, green building. We build all of our homes, our new homes are built to a North Carolina Systems Vision standard, so it's a higher standard. We're trying to make sure that the homes are efficient. We want to reduce the energy costs as much as possible because every dollar we can bring utilities down is a dollar back into our homeowners' pockets. And so we look very closely at how we're building the standards that we're building to, and how we can bring costs down. We're looking at cost efficiency, weatherization, all of those things to build to a green standard.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We have community engagement staff on both the program side and on the real estate development side. And I'll give you an example. When we were starting to work in Greer Heights, we went to the organization first that really concentrates on Greer Heights. That's called Crossroads CDC, and started working with them. We had won an RFP with Mecklenburg County for like a 14-acre site to redevelop it. So we had a series of community meetings, they call them Endavas, where they basically came up with the plan for those 14 acres, and we submitted it to the county and ended up, getting zoning for that particular project. It'll start soon. But the way we look at it is we try to revitalize neighborhoods, which basically is to improve neighborhoods for the people who already live there and not gentrify them by acting upon a neighborhood. So that's the one big difference for us is we don't want to do anything to a neighborhood. We want to do something with a neighborhood. On the program side, our community engagement staff, they're working with the neighborhood associations, they're working with the faith organizations. We make presentations, individually on home ownership and how our home buyer education and housing counseling work. We agree and want to reinforce that we need to move renters into home ownership, because even at the current interest rates, lots of times you can buy a home for the same amount of money that rent is these days. Rent's, starting to get into that $1,500, $1,600 range. If you can purchase a home and your mortgage rate is $1,300, it never changes, or very little except for property tax and insurance. So, those are the things that we really have to start thinking about as a community, how much we want to really start. Where do we want to put our money? Do we want to put it in home ownership? Do we want to put it in more rental? That's a question for everyone, I think.
Yes. Okay, I actually have a question. Thank you all for being here. And it's actually more of a response to a concept, given a scenario. So today in America, Black women are exceedingly the highest educated demographic of people we have in this nation. Also going into the work world with high earning careers. However, on the other end of that, with such being so resilient and ambitious, you also have insurmountable debt. And if you want to be a homeowner, it is tough on that front end. So I wanted to know if there are options for programming that might not, because again, general public, you see somebody making $150,000 and you think, oh, they're all right. But they don't know about the $800,000 in educational debt that is attached to that. So is there a way to set up maybe just something that can even act as an endowment that you can have on the front end that will give assistance to these people who are, they're going to be, great earners long term, and then they'll be able to give back once they, they kind of find their footing. But just because in an approach to home ownership especially, I know a lot of people who are candidates who should have homes and should be homeowners, but again, that insurmountable debt that they have trying to become better citizens.
I mean, I agree. It does become a problem. What you're suggesting, and I'm brainstorming here, is some kind of a different mortgage product that might actually combine a mortgage with their student loans, and they'd only have one payment. That mortgage product doesn't exist right now, but you could see it, can't you? It's like, okay, it's 30 years to pay my student loans and my mortgage at the same time, and maybe you'd actually have less of a payment. I don't know of any community that's doing that. There's nothing right now that's really going to wipe out that debt, and it does go to debt to income ratio in terms of how much house you can buy, and it is a problem. A lot of our people who come through our home buyer education have so much debt, especially student loan debt, that they cannot afford to buy a home right away. And lots of times we're working with them for 2 or 3 years, on their journey to buy a home because of that.
Yeah, and I think, I like that idea because I think the scenario you're painting is a very real one, where the income actually precludes the individual from being able to work with us because it's actually an income that's above the median AMIs that we would work with. But when you take into consideration the debt, it's not as high an income. But yeah, so the income alone precludes them from working with us. So it would probably need to be a market rate, something that a financial institution might look at is trying to link that debt and mortgage affordability.
Okay,
I was just going to add, as one of those Black women who graduated with an insurmountable amount of debt, who landed in the nonprofit world, right? Ironically teaching homebuyer education and financial counseling to individuals. This is one thing that I will say. I think it's a great idea if we could come up with something that would assist with that issue. However, that is why education is vital. It's important that individuals who are interested in home ownership that do have college debt, student loan debt, they understand that that DTI, that debt to income ratio, is going to make or break their affordability. And so even if it may take them 2 to 3 years to get to that space where they're able to reduce their other debt, right? Their car loans, any credit card debt outside of those student loans, because as you also know, they have several different payment plans, and some individuals may have $150,000 in student loan debt, but not make a payment. They're not making a payment. However, when they go to the lender sees that they're not making a payment, but they also know that at one point in time that they're going to come out of forbearance, and you're going to owe that $1,000, $1,500. And so what they do, and again, being 100% transparent, when I decided to purchase a home in the city, and I'm glad that I did when I did, which was just a while ago, but the lender said that, hey, this is all you can afford. Even though this is your income, this is the amount that you can afford, because we're going to have to utilize and include $1,000 as a debt payment for you, even though you're not paying that towards your student loan. So generally speaking, anyone that's interested in home ownership, especially those with student loan debt, we try our best to assist them and teach them, school them on saving, putting money aside to pay down debt, because with the student loan debt, if that's the only thing that you have, it's usually the highest debt that you have, and that can keep someone who qualifies for a $350,000 house out of the competition, because now they can only afford $185,000, which is non-existent in this market.
okay. My question is, Okay, my question is, Julie had mentioned that the Dream Key service about 85% of the people that you service are African Americans. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, if all of you can share with us, what are the percentages on the other demographics of community that you service? With your 85% is African American.
80 to 85 right now.
And if you all can just break it down and let us know who else you're serving.
Yeah, so the families that Habitat serves through new home ownership and repairs and financial literacy runs about 90% are families of color, African American, and 10% other.
About 98% of the individuals that come through the Destination Homeownership Program are African American or Latino.
Oh, I just wanted to say, well, I'm gonna say this first. This may only affect a few people, but I know that Truist Bank, they work with doctors in that same area that, you're talking about. So they do work with doctors when they come, because I know my daughter and her husband financed their house through a special doctor's program with Truist Bank. Nice. So they take into consideration the loan and all of that.
That's great.
I wanted to say that when I was on the Historic West End board, we talked a lot about housing, and we went to Washington, D.C., and in southeast of Washington, D.C., we went to a housing project, and it was, a real housing project. But what happened was the people who lived there got together and bought the project. They bought it and turned it completely around. I mean, it's the same place, but it looks a whole lot different because everybody owns their apartment. So I don't know how that came about. I don't know any of the details, but I just know that they got together and bought the project.
Yeah, DC is very progressive. They actually have a renter's kind of bill of rights. And so when a landlord is going to sell a property, a naturally occurring affordable housing property, which happens here in Charlotte all the time, and somebody turns it and they, raise rents 30, 50% over the next few years, they actually have to inform the district like 90 days in advance that they are going to sell that property. And during that 90 days, the residents have an opportunity to work with a nonprofit to acquire that property during that 90 days and be able to turn it back into co-op housing or to save it and turn it and keep it as affordable housing. We don't have that tool in Charlotte. We don't have that in North Carolina, but I think it would really make a big difference because it puts, the property is in the hands of people who are invested in it and a nonprofit organization. So I think I know what property you're talking about, and it was a great demonstration. If I'm not mistaken, it then turned into a co-op, and they actually own their units.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great story. I really wish we had that tool that when I knew 90 days in advance somebody was going to sell their naturally occurring affordable housing. It would have made a big difference about 5 years ago when everything started trading in Charlotte and we lost tens of thousands of units.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentation this morning. Two quick questions. One deals with what will it take from the public side to help get more 3-bedrooms? A lot of the projects that I see coming through are 1 and 2. Folk who have different gender children at a certain age level needs additional space. So what would it take from my side of the street in terms of the public side to help in making the deal work? The second piece deals with the rental properties. We figured out how to monetize poverty, so there has to be a way of helping people with upward mobility. So what can we do with respect to upward mobility? in terms of services, wraparound services, as projects come before me, my question is, what are we doing to help people break the cycle of poverty so that they can afford market rate rent or buy a home? So those are two quick questions. Thank you.
I've lost the first question already. What was the first question? How can public support building? So on the unit size, I'll show that Habitat, our new homes, we've got a variety of different models, but the vast majority are 3, 4, and 5 bedroom homes. On occasion, we will do a 2-bedroom, but that's usually an exception. So, probably 95% of what we're doing right now is 3, 4, and 5 bedroom homes. They are, in my opinion, beautifully designed and fairly compact when you get to 5 bedrooms. But for that very purpose, and people ask me how people are connected with how we decide what size home. So we look at the number of children, the gender of the children, the age of the children. So there's a whole matrix of guidelines that we go through, and then try and right size the home based on the size of the family. So that's how we're doing units.
On the multifamily side, 3 bedrooms are probably our hardest to rent. So we do, just from a market standpoint, not just from, they're actually hardest to rent. Most people want a 2-bedroom. But yeah, you're probably right, affordability does run along with that. I think that in terms of just, again, making a deal work, what you would really, if you wanted more 3 bedrooms, you would need more density. So I would need to be able to build more units overall. So the UDO actually should be able to help with some of that, the new Uniform Development Ordinance, because you can, if you're building affordable housing, you can go a little bit higher, you can build more units. So I think that that will make a difference. But we do have to pay attention to the market and develop the right number of units for what the demand is. And 3 bedrooms are probably our least demanded unit.
I'm going to ask a quick question. In terms of the locations of most of your places, can you either share with us the zip codes of where they're located? The majority of them are located in the city.
Well, I think that most people know that our properties are mostly in the northwest part of the city. We have always concentrated along Statesville Avenue in Charlotte, so we were developing, doing both neighborhood redevelopment and multifamily development in those areas. I would say District 5 and 6 are probably the ones that we have the least number of units. A lot of that is NIMBY issues, not in my backyard. We have seen changes in attitudes right now as to building affordable housing in some of those districts, but we haven't seen the prices go down. So right now, like I'm looking at a piece of land in District 6, it's 4 acres. It's $2.65 million. So, it is important to put affordable housing in all areas of our city to make sure that people do have economic opportunity and access to good jobs and schools. But there has to be a realization, if that is the community's priority, and I think it should be, that more money is going to have to go to those particular properties.
Yeah, similar. So Habitat, we build throughout the community, probably with the exception of, you've probably heard the terms of the crescent and the wedge when we talk about the economics of our community. We do not do a lot of work in the wedge. We have historically concentrated in the West Boulevard corridor, so a lot of activity there. But we've been interested in really wanting to expand where we build houses and scatter more, and so we are building much more across the entire crescent and through the community, and then up into Mooresville as we expand north. But still really not doing a lot in that wedge for the very reasons that Julie was talking about. Again, without kind of that public support for the acquiring of land, it really does make the land so much more expensive, and we can acquire more more land in other parts of the community to be able to serve more families than if we buy land in the wedge. And so that's been historically why we haven't done that. And when you think about our repair program, we've worked in north of 130 different neighborhoods in this area with the repair program, so that has great reach.
And Livian, as an organization, has over 45 properties all throughout the city of Charlotte. And speaking to the destination homeownership in particular, and where these individuals that are coming through this program are purchasing, we look to organizations like Habitat. So wherever they go, we go. And the same for Dream Key. So we just kind of wait out on the sidelines to see where they're building and where they're creating affordable opportunities for our residents, and that's where we end up.
All right, quickly, we have two more questions to close us out. Ms. Walton and Ms. Ivory.
Yes, Shannon, years ago, Section 8 housing choice vouchers, the voucher holders had to go through a program called Good Neighbors, which was sponsored by Central Piedmont Community College. And, and that was part of when folk would say, Section 8 voucher holders will tear up your house, whereas there were only less than 5,000 voucher holders and more than 300,000 apartments. And so the numbers just didn't work. I mean, it was just a myth. That's not true. My question, after getting that information, is can you tell us the number and the type of housing vouchers? I mean, your veterans and all of those. Can you let us know those numbers and the types? Thank you.
The numbers, I don't understand completely what you're asking. The numbers available, the number of individuals that we're currently working with in the Destination Homeownership Program.
The number of voucher holders.
I cannot give you the full number of voucher holders throughout all of Livian properties, but speaking specifically to those who are entering into the Destination Homeownership Program, we currently serve about 175 individuals. About 80% of those are voucher holders, and they may be housing choice voucher holders or veterans that are part of the HUD-VASH program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is, well, first I want to say, and this is probably very selfish, I wish you would go to 5 and 6 before you come back to 2 and build all these houses, because I think we should share. Y'all hear what I'm saying? I'm talking about going to 5 and 6 and building affordable housing.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at a clock and I'm like 5 and 6.
And then,
Gotcha. Districts,
I think we should share. I'm not saying that we should not do it in 2, but I think we have our share, The other is, I'm concerned with Livian, the quality, what is it going to take to improve the housing, because people they deserve better. I think about South Side, I think about the area right off of Beatty'sford Road across from Bojangles, up on the hill. What is it? Tarleton. And, I've delivered meals to those families, and I just think that, is it not that we have enough money to fix those properties up? And then there were a couple of more. I know that over on Graham Street, between Graham, we did tear down a lot of the property that was where was that? Delhay Courts. So I'm just wondering, where do we get the money? What is the plan to refurbish that area? People deserve better.
Oh, she hit me with that one. So one One of the things that is important to understand when it comes to the work that Enlivian does is that there is a large number of individuals that we're attempting to serve in our community, and capacity, right? It takes money, it takes individuals to be able to, construction doesn't happen overnight. And so although we've been in the process of trying to enhance the properties that we are doing away with and creating better opportunities for our residents, we do have an opportunity to put them in a place where they can be able to thrive. And so when it comes to those particular properties that you're speaking of, I can't speak specifically to those. And I'm gonna go ahead and be 100% transparent right now. I am fresh inside of Enlivian, and my main focus is enhancing the home ownership program. So we focus on the affordable housing piece as it relates to home ownership. However, I will be happy to have a conversation and get you connected with some individuals that can give you exactly what you need to hear regarding those particular properties and what we're doing with those.
That's 2 questions you need to get back to.
Yes, I wrote down the first one already. The children in the housing choice voucher.
Right.
Yes, ma'am, I got you covered.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to ask if there are any announcements that you'd like to make while you're here. And for those that you don't make, you can send them to Steve or to the website, and he will post it on our website. So announcements.
I'll go ahead and set it off. Ms. McClellan. Good morning, everybody. My name is Winston Robinson, co-facilitator at Tuesday Morning Forum, and I am here to let you know again about a vibe outside, the greatest festival you would ever attend in your life. So much fun. We will have Dream Key as a leader sponsor, if you will. You know, one of our flagship sponsors in the Vibe Outside and the Vibe Conference, as well as Habitat. Hopefully after a coffee, Shannon and Ruben will be there as well. Again, that is Saturday, July 15th at West Complex. That is 1600 West Trade Street from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. I hope to see you all there.
Are there any other announcements?
Ms. Nance?
On the 22nd of,
Wait a minute, wait, let me get your mic, Ms. Mary.
Well, you need to be announcing this because you're one of the speakers. On the 22nd, something on the 22nd, at Batesford Library or Allegra Westbrook Library. What is it? Announce it.
On Thursday, June 22nd, at Allegra Westbrook's Library, the Charlotte Observer will host a panel discussion on gentrification. So, yeah, I'm one of the panelists along with other panelists. But yeah, that is at 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 22nd. Thank you, Ms. Mary, for putting me on the spot. Ms. Nancy, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Griffin. Ms. Nancy, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Last time I talked to you about the Duke rate increase and the protest. Unfortunately, it's the 22nd. The rally starts at 5:30 down at the Mecklenburg Courthouse. Please come and speak. Tell these people what a difference this rate increase will make in your life. That's the message that needs to be talked to them. And that part, the hearing part, is at 7 o'clock inside the courthouse. But we really do need you. Everybody is wearing black because of the blackout. That's what happened to all of us. We can't let this happen.
Certainly want everyone to attend July 15th. The Vibe, this young man's put on really good programs, but also want you to also participate in Tiger Day, which is July 15th at the old Second Ward High School Gymnasium over on Martin Luther King Boulevard. From 11 to 2 p.m., you'll see some authentic material exhibits from Brooklyn and Second Ward High School, and really about how this African-American community grew. So that's July 15th. At the old Second Ward High School. It's free food, free drinks, and line dancing for folks over 70 years old.
Over 70. That's wild.
Yeah, all you groovy guys and groovy girls out there in groovy land. Yeah. I will not be here next Tuesday to play because I will be in Las Vegas watching Maya Caldwell, who's a Charlottean, played with the WNBA Indiana Fever. And Maya is a graduate of Georgia, University of Georgia, and she went to Davidson day school. When she was in school, she took piano lessons from Clara Jones. And that's why I will not be here, but I'll be watching some great basketball. I just want y'all to know.
Thank you so much.
Let's give our guests a round of applause. And we hope to see all of you back on next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday we have.
Next Tuesday, we have, she's with the Federal Reserve. Carrie Cook. She's gonna come and talk to us about economics.
Thank you. So that's our Thomas.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brought it all in here. I just want to say thank you to you. This was great. I used to be the development coordinator for the House of Thank you. You're welcome. So good to see you as well.